had a couple of guests come on. Alex Mirabal from the offensive line coach from Oregon was on Monday, and he was freaking awesome. Shared with us a lot of great stuff on the Oregon run game, particularly pin and pull and their wide zone concept. We had Brent Dearman on not long ago, and I'm typically in the business where we don't announce it because we're not trying to build the room with 500 dudes, and I'm not trying to get famous or make any money off anybody. But I think I got us somebody lined up on Monday night that's going to talk kind of a myriad of things. He's going to talk a little bit about offensive game plans, and then using like some closed and bunch formations in the passing game. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be another Power 5 guy coming in to drop a little knowledge. So don't be don't be late to get the link on that one, fellas. I'm looking forward to it. Tonight, somebody had suggested this a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was a great idea, and so I jumped on it. We're kind of going to look at different scenarios. I had some things I wanted to discuss. I reached out to some different guys. I know I put it on Twitter, had some people reach out to me, and just kind of come up with some different scenarios of how do you like to plan against certain looks, how do you protect certain things, and then also how do you kind of attack different things. So, I'm kind of the host and moderator, but I'm not the man behind the curtain by any means. So I want everybody to know that I encourage you to jump in and share if you've got something to add to the conversation. If you have a question, ask it. We're going to get to as many of the topics tonight between the things that people sent me and the list that I kind of had for myself. We're going to get to as many of them as possible. If you have film, you're welcome to show it. If you have diagrams, I want to see them. Because when I started doing this whole thing, man, the point was for me to be able to learn. And that's definitely why I'm still doing this. So with that being said, I'm gonna share up real quick. And I had a series of kind of things to discuss. And as I kind of started working on everything and filled in some questions, one of you guys sent me this, and it made sense to start with it instead of getting into the next stuff that I had written down, because he talked about how do you go about developing a common language for your offensive staff when identifying coverages, pressures, and looks. And I thought that it was a real good question for a lot of different reasons. I've been on staffs before where we have a ton of kids that go both ways, and so we tried to share as much language as we could. Whatever they identified, the defensive staff identified as cover 2, whatever they called it, that's what we called it as an offensive staff for continuity purposes. But I don't know if that's always easy. The staff that I'm on right now, our defensive staff does a great job, but a lot of what they do coverage-wise is not the same as what we see week in and week out. So it's hard for us to share that common language. So I'm curious for you guys, how do you develop a common language? Like I'm a firm believer that you need as a staff and with your kids to speak a common language. And whether it's talking about the alignment of different players, the coverages, the pressure, whatever it might be, it gets really damn confusing when one coach is calling it one thing and you're calling it something else. I was in a situation several years ago where there was one particular coach on staff that was a good football coach. He had a great high school career. He had played at a big-time college football program, had spent some time in the NFL, and the language he used was not inaccurate. It wasn't what our defensive coordinator used. So when we would be on the sidelines on a Friday night and the defense coordinator would look at a linebacker and ask him a question, the kid would get confused because he didn't process. You might know that, that ace can mean, one thing. For him, if his position coach's been calling it doubles all week, but you're calling it ace, the kid's lost. And sometimes they admit that and sometimes they don't. So how do you guys do that from an offensive staff perspective? How do you create that common language, or do you even feel it's necessary to have that common language with the kids and with the staff?
Our terminology crosses over. So
That's
when we do scout switch, the defensive, when our scout offense goes with the defense, their cards, has our terminology on it and vice versa. So like when we have the scout defense, we're calling out, whatever our defensive coverages are called for varsity, we're calling that out. That's basically our JV guys with
yep.
us, so they're already know, like you said, if there is a look that we're going to see that they don't have, we just come up with a name for that week. Say, hey, look, when we call this is what y'all need to do. So we kind of do that in a walkthrough before, like, we might start the team session or, whatever.
It's a great way to handle it if you can,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I know even now, I mean, we do a lot of good on good, and I always want to run the scout book when we're giving the defense a look so that I can translate it for our kids, and because the defense coordinator and I share an office and see each other during the day. And so it's very easy for me to know, hey, Pete, when they block power, they don't block it like you. Here's what they do. It's real easy for me to say, hey, fellas, we're running red pit right here, but here's what I want. We're not gonna deuce this. We're gonna, you can be efficient and still give them a good look. That's a great way to handle it if you can. Anybody else?
The coaches do a good job. They even come into the offensive office at times and say, hey, what do y'all call this? When they have a formation, they'll ask us if we already have a name for it before they put one in.
That's great.
So they do a good job of that.
That's awesome.
Coach, the easiest thing that I've ever found that does work for me is that I always get together with whatever side of the ball I'm at, whatever side I'm coordinating, and we try to call every formation the same way.
Yep.
So if I have to adjust to the offense's calls and formations, that's fine. But that takes care of a lot of issues. So it just becomes one for everybody, whatever side of the ball you're in. Second, the most difficulty that I've ever encountered, like yourself, it is imperative for coaches to call the same thing the same way every single time. Even with teaching technique, it becomes really important that everybody uses the same verbiage and terminology.
I'm a big believer, Coach. I know. I mean, Joe, you've coached a lot of ball. I know you've coached both sides of the ball, and I'm with you. I think formations, especially, that's such an easy one to do if you're a defensive coordinator in particular, right? I think as an offensive guy, sometimes it's hard with coverages. Pressures aren't necessarily, it just depends on what your guys do. The system that we have used for pressures, and I'll share this real quickly. Let's see here. Can y'all see my huddle, or do I need to share again?
Share again.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I can count on you, Corley. You're always there for me, man.
That's why I'm here, brother.
All right, so let me random formation. So what we have done, and we've tried to teach our players in the past, I'm sure I'm gonna have to dick with this and get guys lined up. So we always tell our guys to the strong side when we're labeling pressures and stunts. We label them A, B, C, D, just like you normally would. But then on the weak side, what we do is we label them X, Y, Z. And then we typically, because we never really play with two tights, we really don't have a ZZ very often. So what we'll do, right, if they were going to run like a little cross splits right here, where they were going to put him here, bring him into weak side A, and put him through weak side B, what we would do is in huddle where our kids can see it, because front side will be color. So if we're, if our protection was a right-handed protection right here, we would label it Mike at X, Will at Y. If it were a left-handed protection, we would label it Will at B, Mike at A. And it's a system. It's something that I learned a long time ago that I picked up from somebody that I was working with. And I thought, it makes a lot of sense. It's not hard to teach necessarily. And once the kids grasp the basics of that, it's real simple for them to pick up on. It's real simple for coaches to pick up on. And so I've had a lot of success with that, but I'm not going to say I'm married to it at the same time.
Coach, one thing we do, so back to your original question with terminology, I actually went through something a little different this year because, one, I'm the last man on staff. Two, it is a new staff, right? So after the interview process, the OC pretty much just put me on his film, and he's like, hey, coach me through this. And then he, if we were on the same page with terminology, we were good. If not, we had to talk each other through it. And that was zone scheme, gap scheme, whatever. But then, you're on the blitzes. So you just showed that when we're labeling that in huddle or whatever, that would be a south weak blitz to us. But if we had an inside blitz and a right side blitz, that would be a northeast.
Right.
But now let's say our right guy comes first, the outside right guy comes first, then it's an east-north, like a cross dog exterior type stuff. So that's how we label stuff, and it's actually gone really well in our Zoom meetings. So.
And your kids understand that?
Yeah, because north is right in front of you, east is to everybody's right, west is to everybody's left, and if there's two dudes in the middle, it's a south blitz. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. And that's the thing, man. I think as long as what you're trying to teach makes sense, I mean, if you're in the building as a coach, you're probably getting paid as a teacher or a parapro, and that's what pays most of our paychecks. So. Your ability to teach it. I know one thing that we have spent some time on, and this is what we're doing, Mike, like I was telling you earlier, that when I meet with my offense on Friday, we're going over this, and this comes from me meeting with my quarterbacks and meeting with our guys, is we're literally going to ID how we call different defensive players in fronts, right down to the gaps, because we're going to review it, man. Because as much as I like to think my guys know it, my O-line know that. That's easy, right? If I start asking my tailback, sometimes he looks at me like I'm an idiot. So we're going to review gaps, and then I've gone in and we've broken down every defender, regardless of what scheme. I don't care if you're an odd front, an even front, whatever. If you are on the center in any form or fashion and your hand is in the dirt, we're going to call you a nose. If you're on a guard, in any form or fashion, hand in the dirt, we're calling you a tackle. And if you're on our tackles or a tight end, we're calling you an end. If you are standing up, whether you're down in a walk-up 5 or a walk-up 9 or you're apex, we're calling you a viper. And if you're standing up in the box, whether you're at depth or walked up in gap, we're calling you a backer. Simple as that. Not making them learn, Mike, Will, Sam. They don't have to know that, right? I need them to be able to say, Coach, the backer in A gap, or the end in a 4-eye. That's all they need to know. So we just built out real simple ID language for corners, for safeties, and for how we identify them. And then from there, with our O-line, it's just real simple, identifying an even front versus an odd front and a bare front. I mean, and from there, whether it's an odd front with a reduced weak side, we can watch that. We can figure that out. We just want them to kind of get the basics. So I think even starting there with our kids, because that's what I've told our kids, right, is I don't know when we're going to get on the field for the first time, but whenever it is, you're being fed a lot of information and you better know it, So we're starting at basics because we spend so much damn time. If we would have had spring football, it would have already been over. We'd have played our scrimmage last Friday night, and we would have probably spent a good bit of time in meetings, building up to spring ball and obviously meetings during spring ball. But I don't know if we necessarily do a great job of hitting all those fundamental elements that right now I've got the time to emphasize. So I've been really trying to make that a priority. So anybody else, how you handle, how you address kind of common language and terms?
Coach, what I end up doing is that I just try to use one-syllable words as far as calling blitz and stuff like that. For instance, for my backer, if it's a Mac, that means he's going strong A.
Yep.
If it's a mob, he's going strong B.
Yep.
If it's Ma, he's going weak A. So I just try to use names, and that way I don't have to stick to a certain just the blitz. So, for instance, I can call Will or Webb or Whack. It talks to my Will backer, telling him where he's going.
Yep.
Based on the name. So I can go Mac Webb. So I got an A and a B gap blitz. So it doesn't. That's how I learned that from somebody that you also know. I used to do it different. I used to be a little more complicated, for lack of a better word.
Did you steal that from Sam?
Yeah.
Yep.
I gave him my defense. He gave me his terminology. So
it's a good trade-off.
It worked out. It worked out.
You know, I mean, when I was a defensive coordinator, we did kind of the same thing, and you know, we called it fire if you were blitzing inside and you were going to blitz into your gap alignment. So, and we called it smoke if you were blitzing on the outside. So we would say Sam smoke, Will fire, Mike smoke, whatever. And it was simple, you know, and offensively in the staff room, you know, if we ran it, they tried to use it as much as they could, but we were also a defense that didn't blitz a lot. So they were forced to create a whole lot of language too. So I think that's definitely a thing. So I'm going to move on unless somebody wants to add to that point in the conversation, because I know we got several things I want to try to get to tonight. So one of the ones that came up, I know it was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and also one of the things that people asked me about was specifically dealing with you know, if you're a 10P football team or you're in a situation where you're going to be in 10P, dealing with the overhang defender in an odd front, right? So I've got it drawn up, obviously 3x1 with that weak side overhang up in a place to attack. Y'all can see that drawing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you know, if you are a 10P team or if you use 10P as part of your package, how do you deal with the overhangs? You know, from a passing game standpoint, from a protection standpoint, it doesn't bother me, right? I feel like we have answers in what we want to do. In the run game in particular, how do you like to deal with those edge defenders in an odd front from 10P sets?
What we do, we're either going to push to him or we're going to influence it in our zone game.
Right.
And I feel like our best look is influencing that guy and reading that 4-eye. We've had a lot of success with that. But either way, we want to make sure we have the box counted. We want to block that viper.
So if you're going to work your zone, you work it away, you would influence, read the 4-eye, and be something like that, potentially.
Yes, yep. That's exactly right.
Which is a great way. I mean, I think, you know, as long as you can get to these guys, you know, that's a great way to do it. And I know a lot of guys that do, or they read that viper. My thing is I'm trying to keep my quarterbacks clean as I can because he's I don't want to use the term fragile, but he's borderline fragile. So,
Coach, we do the same thing. What are you guys doing as far as gap exchange goes with that?
So that's a good question, right? If you're, you know, if he's playing a 4-eye, he's probably reading that guard's hip. And if that guard works his zone path to try to get here, he's going to squeeze, he's out. And if he exchanges right there, how are you accounting for him? That's a great question, Coach.
Well, Coach, I'm more so speaking if the end say he's head up.
Okay.
Because I'm like, if he's in a 4-eye, more than likely he's probably going inside.
Yep.
But if he say he's head up and he goes outside and becomes a 5, and they bring the viper inside.
Okay, gotcha. So if they go here and exchange him.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, you know, we're a heavy mid-zone team, which I've talked about in here a ton. Last year, you know, we played Harrison, and they won the 6A state title in Georgia. But part of their answer all night long to us, and it was a great scheme, was wherever we offset our back, that weak side Viper, he was going to be the outside player. He was going to fold in, and they literally just told this dude, be patient as hell, because you don't have to be fast to fit anything, you know. And I didn't have a great answer that night necessarily. We talked to our kids. What we really wanted to do at that point, Coach, was our answer was screw the 5 technique. Now work to him, knowing that he's folding, and let's let this guy be a slow fitter, you know. And we have answers in our run game where he is the read for our tailback. So if he sits, we should hit here, and if he scrapes, we should cut back.
So you pretty much lock the backside tackle on the Viper.
That's what we tried to do, yeah, and we had a little bit of success with it. They were a good football team, bottom line, and so we had a little bit of success running the ball, but they got the best of us that night for damn sure. You know, and like Trent just said, Phil's is you know, if they're going to gap exchange those two, just read the Viper, which is, you know, if you can lock on him and now just read him, that's an interesting way to do it. But yeah, that was my answer, Smitty, was let him go out and let's, you know, take our zone path. If he slants, I take him. If he works out at all, turn right now and build that wall. That was our answer.
I got you. I like that exchange. Your tackles were pretty they were able to make that adjustment.
Yeah, you know, it's all about how fast that operation's happening, you know, because that's the other thing too, is we felt like for this kid to be good and effective at it, for that Viper, he's got to be at heel depth or deeper, right? Mm-hmm. So we would just tell him, man, take that picture, because if he's standing at the line of scrimmage, his butt's probably coming off the edge, right? But if he's heel depth or deeper and a little bit tight, then I would expect that exchange, because he's putting himself in position to fold in once he gets this, you know, because he's still probably got to be, you know, if he gets run at him, they probably don't want him folding in here. They probably want him here, knowing they still have a B-gap fitter sitting behind him if he gets action his way, you know.
Coach, one thing that we did and are doing is, you know, we're kind of combining a play call with a check at line of scrimmage for the O-line, as if either the tackle or the quarterback makes a tech call. That tech call is going to lock that man out, whoever we designate for that week. Okay. Right? So if we're working off of what Coach Fields talking about and the influence in that 4-eye, well, then his tech is going to actually swap that responsibility. So that can also be a play call for us. We can call tech route or, you know, whatever you're going to do where you're running it to the right side, or we can do it again to the left, depending on what's going on. So
if you're running to the right here, right, and you make that tech call, walk me through it. And, Coach, if you go to the top, there's an annotate feature. You can annotate on my screen even though it's shared. At least that's my understanding.
Hold on now, annotate.
See if I'm –
on it, Coach.
See if we're fancy.
I think we got – oh, hold on now. All right, let's see what we can do here. So our base, right – oh, golly. I don't know what I got.
You picked the wrong pen, dude.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Let's see. Okay. So our base, right, we're not influencing. We're true inside. You know, my drawing is butchered to all get out, but we all kind of have the visual for it. And we're going to read this Viper. But if we call it tech, right, what we're going to do for this week, let's just say that's our scheme and our plan, our tech is just going to simply swap that responsibility.
Okay, so now you can get into reading him just like Coach Fields was talking about.
And that can come from the tackle or that can come from the sideline. So if we call our inside zone play, you know, Zorro, but our complement to that is just tech, right? Well, then tech automatically keeps everybody else's responsibilities the same. It just changes Q's read and tackle's responsibility.
Makes complete sense. I've always been, you know, the imperfect answer for us has always been, particularly at offset, right, work our mid-zone to him, and we make what's called a spot call. So we lose a front-side combo, but what the spot does is it pushes our backside combo forward one backer. So if this guy were off, we'd be comboing the front-side guard tackle to 1, and we do combo in the backside center guard to 2. But once we spot, we're pushing forward to the first backer in the box. So our responsibility now is we would block this guy and we would use an RPO tag to try and make him wrong. That would be our answer. That's our most base answer. But I always want something else. Anybody? Yes, sir.
If you're going the other way, zone right, and you're worried about the weak switch that Smitty was talking about, it depends on your left tackle's technique. And we teach a tap step. If we're going to do what Trenton said and, go out to the Viper, we're going to teach a tap step by that left tackle, a right tap step with a head nod. That's going to slow down the 4-eye. He's going to read the guard, but he's going to think that he's about to get blocked by that tackle. So he's going to put his eyes there. He's going to slow him down. And if it's a switch, the tackle can stop in the hole. If his guy goes away, if somebody crosses his face towards his guy, then somebody's coming. That's just like pass pro rules. So I think the technique matters.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and that's nice. Right? If it's an even front or if we have a 5, we teach tackles to sift all the time, right? So that if he feels this and his gap disappears, turn back out and sift and build the wall. Like that's a very normal thing to do against an even front. So teaching that tap step makes a ton of sense, Coach, because here, if he crosses your face, it's coming, build the wall, and even if he continues inside, if you slow him down at all, I like that.
So by play design, the quarterback thinks he's reading the 4-eye, but I have to always tell him that it's just that gap. It's not the guy.
Right.
Because if somebody leaves your gap, you got to see if somebody shows up. And if your eyes are attached to a guy that's going away from your read spot, then you're not going to play.
For sure. Yeah, that's a vital coaching point in my opinion when comes to that. How many of you guys can attack this guy with gap scheme? Rhett, I already know your answer, Rhett. You're going to run counter right at him.
Yep. Oh no, we're going to block out. You're
going to block out on him. Run.
Yep. Make that 4 step out. We're going to double the nose to the backside. The guard's going to kick that 4 and the tackles through.
And you're going to read him.
The 5, yeah. And then I wouldn't have the W on the ball.
Run key 3.
Yeah, or 1, whatever we want.
Yeah. Which that's another. I'm a big fan. If you're 11 or 20p, we let our guys make the decision. If he's head up or he's a tight 4, we've got a call where he's out and we'll kick him. If he's down in here real heavy on the guard, we make the call where we're down and now we'll kick him. We let our kids make that decision on the field.
We're going to run counter that way and power read to the right and read that in on the other side.
So if you do that, you're going to gap hinge for the Viper. Do you choke the center all the way back?
Yeah.
And then you'll be here, pull for him. Yep. That was my next one was, whether you're running it from toss or you're going to offset and give him power read that way. I agree with you, Coach. That's the other great way to do that is, because again, if they're going to swap those gaps, like Smitty was saying earlier, the gap hinge and the choke call, and we just tell our tackle, anytime you feel your inside gap is threatened, you make that choke call. We may lose a combo on the nose, but we'll take the angles, and try to prevent that A-gap run through.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's a good one.
What we've also done is we 2 things. One is we go dart weak.
Yep.
And of course, we'll go bash with it. We'll give stretch action to the field, and we'll read, especially if we're getting a 5 to the field, we'll read him, and so we'll combo the nose and the right, the center and the right guard will combo to this backside back and the other one.
Oh, to the other one. Okay.
And then we'll either base the Viper and base the end and let the pulling tackle turn up on the backer.
Yep.
Or we can do it. We make an 80 tag to it, and now the tackle and the backside guard will combo with the end and that backer, and we'll let the pulling tackle trap
the Viper. Yeah, I like that. I don't know if I love long trap or short trap from the gun. I love long trap from the gun. I just, and I say that's what Dom said as they run trap. I think, and even if the ends head up and you want to go out on the Viper, gap escape to the backer and kick the head up end, I think that's a great way to handle that. The other answer obviously is always just attack on the perimeter, or RPO off this guy if you can.
Yeah, and then one more. We didn't run a lot of dart last year because we figured we just went pin and pull. Because
I was fixing to ask you if you.
With dart, we got one puller. With pin and pull, we got two. But it's pretty much it's gonna hit the same way.
So would you run it at the Viper?
Yeah, we'll block down on that 4-eye.
Yep.
That play side guard.
Let him kick. Take him. He's going to pull for him.
There you go.
And are you going to take that end, or are you going to go block the backer?
More than likely, we're going to leave him and let that tackle go to the backer.
Okay. And then, like you showed to some, like you're going to be here and then counter back behind it a lot, right?
We'll go. Yeah, or we'll either go bash.
A bash, yeah.
Or we can, or if we're in the pistol like you got it here, we'll just zone step to the right and come back cross face. Yeah,
I love it.
Coach, you guys play a lot of box teams. You don't play too many spill teams, right?
We play when we're playing odd fronts, we're playing box teams for the most part. When we play 4-man fronts, we'll see some spill. I know when I was a coordinator, I spilled the piss out of it. If you couldn't spill the ball, you didn't play. There wasn't much else that mattered. But as a 3-4 team, so many teams box it.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. I still feel like I see your response, Stevie. I'm the same way, Coach. Even when I played some odd front, we still spilled the ball. But a lot of that was because of what we were doing in the secondary. A lot of the odd teams that I see are going to play some version of match, or they're going to play man free on the back end. So they're not going to spill it because there's nobody to spill it to.
I got you.
So anybody else have anything as far as this particular look, how you like to attack it?
Yeah, Pete, something simple we do, very similar to Travis as far as dart. We would just run power. We'd pull the guard and hinge with the backside tackle and run stick with your W.
So would you run power weak or power to the boundary?
Power to the Viper. So we'd be out. We'd be blocked one-on-one right there, wrap the guard, hinge, and then
RPO off of him. Yeah. That's what I always – in theory, this nose is most likely a front side A-gap player. Just from a gap integrity standpoint, that's where you expect him to be. And if you find that on film, I'm with you, man. I think that's a great way to do it. When you get that dude that just runs through your face, and that's one of the things that people just wanted to talk about tonight was what happens when their Jimmy's a hell of a lot better than your Joe. How do you game plan for it? But I'm with you on that, Trent. And I like one back power, and I don't hate one back power here even. If you're out there, boom, there, pull for him, gap hinge, and now work your glance on the backside. But to me, that all depends on this, what that weak side safety looks like. So we're going to move on. We'll see. Yes, sir.
I think one thing that is kind of overlooked, at least in our perspective, is the athleticism of that Viper.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in Kentucky, we're not seeing the same dudes as in Georgia and Florida. But I don't know how many times we've played a guy that's playing there that's going to be able to come around and make that play. So we run a counter or power right at him and just kick the nose and block everybody else down. And he's usually going to take himself out of the play by alignment. And that's a good point. I feel like we didn't see a ton of odd fronts when I first got to Georgia because the best athletes were either at backer or safety. And what I'm seeing now is the athletes – whoops, hit the wrong button, I think. The athletes, what I'm seeing right now are freaking these dudes right here. And they're going to be able to set an edge. They're going to be able to rush the hell out of a passer and give me fits,
Pete, I think the reason you're seeing that is because now in the NFL, when they come draft day and you see that edge player,
yes, sir,
a little bit of cover guy, a little bit of rusher, and just general badass. It's trickling down in a hurry to our level.
You're dead on, Wes. I agree completely. I mean, there's a lot of things that trickle up from high school to college and NFL, whether they want to admit it or not. That's one that I agree with you. It's trickling down. Where, I mean, we had a kid last year, defensive end, that when we walked on campus the end of his freshman year going into his sophomore year, there were two of them that were both tall, thin, twitchy kids. One thought he was a linebacker. One thought he was a safety. Well, the safety graduated in 18 and complained when we first put his hand in the dirt, but he's on a full ride now at Eastern Kentucky. And the other one that thought he was a linebacker put his hand in the dirt. Mostly, we stood him up some at that Viper position in 19, and he's going to FAU to go rush the damn quarterback. Like that's, but they were kids that space wasn't where they needed to be. But going forward, they were twitchy and they could move, and they were athletic. They give you fits. So I agree with you, Coach.
Before you move on, can I talk about my favorite pass route real quick?
Give it to me.
Okay, it's the counter, the one I sent you.
Yes, sir.
Counter into the boundary. Guys, we're going to double the nose to the backside. To the play side back. We'll read the 5. And one thing that's a little bit unique with that 4 technique, our left tackle, he's going to take his inside foot and pick it straight up and put it right back down and let that guy win inside. And then we're just going to try to run him all the way to the nose. But we really want to pull this. We're going to pull and kick the Viper and wrap for that backer. But the best part of this play is we get sprint out pass with our and he's down beside, he's sidecar right there. So he's jab stepping and going. But our receivers, if that end can make the tackle on the quarterback, it turns into sprint out pass for us. The W is going to push up until he gets past that guy and then turn out. There's no depth. He'll never get deeper than 10. Okay? The H is running a right now bubble to the sideline. And the Z is running and standing on the tick marks. No, put him out there wider, Coach. He's all the way out on the tick marks. And what we found with this is number 3 is always open. I sent it to Pete the other day, and all he's doing is just pushing up and turning out. But what it gives you is as soon as that Viper, the guy lined up between the H and the W, as soon as he triggers, the guy standing there all by himself. Because if they're playing roll, if they're playing any type of roll coverage or anything like that, the free safety is widening if he sees them sprinting out. And it's been really good to us. We threw it 7 times on 3rd down last year. In our last 3 games, we ran this play 7 times. We were 6 out of 7 making first downs. And on the 7th time, our best receiver flat dropped the flipping ball. Now that was his one drop for the year, and I gave him, I may have said some ugly things, but he did okay the rest of the time.
The thing, Wes, like you sent me those cut-ups, and there were 10, 15, no more than 20 clips, I don't think, in that particular one. I saw this W. I saw him catch it here. I saw him catch it here. Saw him catch it there. I saw him catch it there.
Right.
But even the time that you threw it here, he was open.
Yes.
Like, because, he's going to get influenced, right? This guy or this guy, one of them, they get sprint out. They're going to try to go flush right now. This kid's looking to get over the top of things right now. He's out of position. And you sent it, and all the clips weren't from the same game. And it didn't matter the cover structure. Now, your quarterback, I thought, did a great job, Coach, of coming out of that mesh and finding him right now with his eyes and being able to, pop it on him a couple times. But it's a really good scheme. I know I told one of our guys that if I had counter, if we were going to be a counter team, that this was an immediate install for us.
Just gave me an 11th variation.
I had a feeling you would like that one.
Dude,
So
it's flood exactly like that.
That's
Print out.
yeah, it does. It fits into, if that's how you teach your flood, it fits into it. And it is
that way. I like it.
It's nasty, Wes. I appreciate you reminding me of that tonight, because I know you sent it, and I don't think I responded for 2 days because I just kept watching it over and over again, just going, hot damn, it works every time.
How do you not get linemen downfield?
Because, Coach, and that's a great question, Trent. the reason is because when you pull the ball and you're going the other way, the linemen that are going to end up being downfield is the backside tackle, and he's going to be outside the hash into the boundary. There's times where, and we have 7-man crews. I don't know how many of you guys, officials y'all have in a game. We have 7-man crews. They're not going to throw the tackle pinning the linebacker on the numbers of they just don't.
Yeah.
And again, we're very we do it a lot and we get away with it. But against teams, especially odd front teams that are really going to hard key the linebacker's reading the guard. You get a pull, he's running over the top. The weak safety, it's the counter coming at him. He's got to come downhill.
Yep.
And so you get
that's the thing, Trenton, because that's a good question. Like, I watched for it, but he's got to fit here if they're in a 2-high structure. Even when he completed the ball 15, 20 yards downfield, he's throwing it. It's happening in a hurry. Because as soon as he gets this, if they're working the scrape exchange, well, look at the void. Even if the Viper's here and he sees run action and he's fit and run now, homeboy here is in a hell of a bind. He's got to fit run. So even if you're throwing that ball downfield, it's still coming out in a hurry.
And Trent, let me tell you, there's one little caveat to this. If we think the Viper, the guy outside the W, if they're going to bring 2 off the edge, because everybody's like, oh, the way you stop counter is 2 off the edge. Okay, great. Please bring 2 off the edge. Well, the quarterback just looks at the back and gives him a stay call, and the linemen still pull because the end, if the Viper's coming off the edge, the end's coming inside, or they're running some type of bullshit little twist game. We're outside of them now.
Yep, go run, just turned into sprint out with a false pull.
And they're a guy short because I've got 3 receivers to their 2 cover guys.
That's beautiful, Coach.
I love it.
That is absolutely beautiful. So, Coach, Wes, I can always count on you to come drop dimes in here, man. And that or in my text messages afterwards, and I love it every freaking time. So kind of I guess the next question is, and it really may not change much, right? But in particular, when you're getting mini, stubby, whatever you want to call it, and I guess that kind of goes back to that common language, and maybe you're not seeing it a ton, but when they're going to ice number 1 or Meg 1, reduce the field and play some type of cover 2 or palms or whatever, to the rest of the formation. How do you guys like to attack it? I'm always curious. I've got some things that I like. I don't know if I've got a whole lot that, in theory, everything on paper, like I want to put these dudes in some type of a Mills concept and high-low safety. I mean, that's where I want to live. That or do like I would normally do and work a 3 vertical concept.
Is this just the first one, or is it?
There with whatever. But how do you guys like to attack that mini where they're gonna mag or ice him and they're gonna reduce that field and play zone? Does anybody have anything from a concept standpoint that you're just a big fan of?
If he's going to play him man, you just drag him, under. You make an under call, and then we'll run anything to screw up that Viper who's now playing corner that he's not a corner.
Yep.
So, we would under and then switch a squeeze route like that.
Yep. I love it.
What is that guy going to do? He don't know what the hell's happening.
No, he's got to protect 3 out. Right, he's getting attacked in his flat, which technically he was responsible for. So he's got to be patient. It's tough. For our kids, we try to stay simple, and we work our 3-man snag, and we'll work that rhythm corner because we run a lot of 4-man snag. So what we'll do is we'll try to attack vertically here, and instead of our normal 4-man snag, we would be here. So what we try to do is push him corner, pipe him, and we'll push him out a lot of times in motion and get him out there fast. And then our rule, if we got a snag route and we get man-to-man, especially pressed, we're going to stem you and we're going to turn it into a slant route, right? And we're telling him right now, if this Viper can get to here, then we have to be able to work it underneath because one of them's open. You know what I'm saying? But we try to put this safety in a bind, and hold him with the vertical route by number 3. So the same kind of idea, just creating a different angle for the Viper. But I'm with you, Coach, is any type of an under route.
I mean, shit, the reality is the Viper's not a corner.
Exactly.
You got to make him read some stuff, because if they're playing palms, if they're locking it down with the corner and then playing some sort of palms with the Viper, whatever y'all got want to call it, where they're reading the W.
Yep.
You got to get that Viper to make a bad choice.
Agreed.
Are you talking more downfield throws or screen?
Well, I do like screens against it, Rhett. I'm with you on that. I think screens are good, and I think your snag screen in particular,
Yeah, I'm thinking like the 2-man on the single receiver side, and he throwing the tunnel to number 2.
Yep. So Rhett, I'll let you talk him through it, but he's got a beautiful snag screen where he's going to work here into the boundary with the first read for the quarterback, and then you'd be out there, right, and then bring your tunnel back with number 2.
Tackle, guard, center, all coming out.
Yep. It's a great way to build leverage.
You don't have to block that corner. You can just, if he's man, you can just run Z off.
Run him off.
Yeah.
I do. I think, and that's, I was telling you earlier that I've heard you talk about it enough that it's on my short list. But that's one of the reasons why. If teams, if they want to play, even if they just want to play true quarters now on 3rd and long, I think that's such a good way to attack it.
Now, I do like the 3-man snag, the way we run it, because the way we do it is Z has a key one.
Yep. You now him.
And then H has got the snag.
Yep.
W has the cop route. So he's going to read that leverage of that safety. He's going to run corner every time. As that free safety gets outside, he's going to convert to a skinny post. And then that snag is, there's a lot of, based on this diagram, there's a lot of open grass right here. I'm not telling him to go to that linebacker. As soon as he gets, he takes his 5-yard landmark, he's going to stick his foot in the ground and get his chest to the quarterback. So now, especially with the V outside leverage like that, that really work on a snap of the ball to get out there. And we can also tag, if you wanted to, you can do whatever you want with the X. You can run a dig, which is the dagger concept. That's the default route, but you can tag slant whatever you want. Or you can tag a running back screen to the backside, and we do a lot of things off of that.
Yeah, and I, the way that you run your 3-man snag with the outside guy on the key one, it's interesting.
You're keeping a corner down with him in man.
Yep. And you got that, and then work off this guy, right? Work off that box fitter that doesn't want to play out in space.
Right.
I think that's a nice way to do it. I've always been a fan, of again, going back to putting this guy in a bind, right? The way that we have run curl the past couple years, and our dig concept is he's going to be right down the pipe. If he's high, we're going to cross his face. Otherwise, we're literally trying right down the middle of the field, give eyes as soon as we clear the second level. So we're going to be there. We're going to push our dig there, and our normal rule will be flat route there. When we get many, what we want to do that week is we'll tag the wheel, because now I want him to have to fight through the corner and see if he'll run with the wheel route, if he can. And then what we do is we actually, on the back side, we cut the split down and we shallow him. Back protects weak side, and if he gets nothing, he's going to just check out to the flat. But so now, in this coverage again, can we create a nice rub here? If the weak side safety is going to stay on the hash, which is part of the point of this coverage, can we hit this pipe shot right here, especially with the flash fake from the tailback? Can we hit the whole shot right there? And if he's tight or if he's over to hold it, now we've got this 2-man game, but regardless, you've got the shallow coming across, which if he's going to get deep and get out underneath, obviously it helps your shallow game. So that's one that we've always kept in when we get this kind of coverage. We haven't seen a ton of it, but it's been good to us. Because, our H is going to be my dude. That's my most versatile, usually my fastest, right? So if I can get him matched up on this kid, whether he's a backup DB or he is a backup, or the true Viper, that's a win for me. And if he wants to go flying out over the top of it, if we do a good job, the high-low that we get here puts him in a bind and him in a bind, in my mind. What else? Anybody else got another way to attack that coverage?
Coach, seen this much in Kentucky yet, but just looking at it right now, I'm going to keep it super simple, and I'm going to throw all my quicks. I'm going to throw off. I'm going to throw stick. I'm going to throw fade double out just to manipulate that backer and put him in a bind. I'm going to PO it if I wanted to. I'm going to that grass a lot.
I think, and you're cutting out a little bit there, and I know you said a minute ago you were having some audio issues. I'm going to blame it on Kentucky internet. Maybe I did a bad job of putting the backer in the box a little bit. I know if I was a coordinator, I would try to walk him as much as I can, because I'm with you. If I'm getting this right, if you go back and you look at the way so many teams, LSU in particular, are running stick now, where you're going to outside hitch him, step on his toes, burst to the fade, and work the stick route right there. It's a good way to attack it, in particular if this guy's in the box. Because he's got to feather some. He's got to get over the top of it, and you're now just trying to isolate this guy, and you're keeping that weak safety out of the picture. I think that's another nice way to handle it. And then I've always just been a fan too. I don't levels. How do they handle a 3-man levels concept? And then at the same time, if you can protect it and you can get into some 5-man stuff with the drive concept now from the field, right? If he's going to cut a split down, let him work your shallow. This dude doesn't have to be in the equation. Put him wherever you want to now, but work now from your boundary and back to the field. I feel like he's out of position for this dig. He's got to work to the seam route now. And again, you're isolating an underneath player. You just obviously have to be able to protect it. So, anybody else? All right, let's push on. So, tight front is one that I got a good bit of questions about. Tight front, mid front, whatever you want to call it. The way that we're seeing it right now, when we see it, is still either 2 high or 1 high. We're not seeing a ton of the 3 high stuff right now. Maybe that changes now that everybody in America's got time to sit on Zoom and listen to gurus talk. But so for us, we would consider it tight front if we're getting 2 4 eyes and nose, and they're working to apex those backers, slow fit them for RPO and for run game, fast fit them if they get attacked. But to also obviously help take away, here I've got it drawn up against almost like a cover 6, right? Playing 4 to the field and 2 to the boundary, and however you wanted to play it, rotate it, spin guys, pressure, whatever, because so many guys that are doing it. And I know all you Texas guys and Oklahoma guys are probably seeing a lot of it. And I don't know, maybe some of you other guys are as well. But how do you guys run game, passing game, doesn't matter. How do you like to handle this front?
Oh, I wish we see it every day in practice. I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. I don't.
Yes, sir.
We see it every day in practice, and the first thing we do to it is we're going to run. We're going to put the back. We're going to leave him right where he is, right there. But depending on just who's playing where, we're going to run stretch to the 3 receivers and run double outs by the W and the H, and just let the Z go screw off. And all we're looking at is the backer to the field inside of the W right there.
Yep.
If he blows up there, and we're not running real stretch. It's more wide zone-ish.
Yep.
Okay. And it's just literally, but the 4, our guard and tackle can work the 4 up to up to that backer. But if he blasts out of there, the back, we're just going to hand it off to the back. And if he jacks around at all, we're going to hit the W over and over again. And then just to piss our defense off, we'll solid it up, and the H will turn out and go vertical, and we'll hit him on a touchdown. And then practice is over because I work for a defensive head coach, and but he likes me. So, but that's the one easy thing we do to it in the springtime and in the fall when we go against each other.
I like that, Coach. That's good stuff, though. I mean, you're just front side RPO and off this front side backer.
Yes, sir. And we just the quarterback just steps straight back.
Yeah.
Now, if the Viper to the boundary, if it looks like he's coming, we're just handing this joker off because we're still sound to hand it off.
Right.
We can put bodies on bodies. But we can clinic talk it. Oh, we'll throw the backside, blah blah blah. Fuck that. We're going to hand it off and go make our three and try to get on to the next play.
Yeah, I love it. That I know we've had that talk on here a little bit before about RPOs and in particular RPOing off the front side and stuff. But that's off a stretch in particular where the quarterback's going to be able to stay square. I think it makes it a lot easier for him to just read. So are you teaching him, is he going to roll over and speed cut that, or is he going to throttle down based on the alignment of that overhang?
Which one? Both of them?
The W.
The W, yeah. He's going to push out, and this is what we've talked about our guys forever about HBOs. I don't care who it is. If you turn out and there's a bad guy out there, stop.
Yep.
Don't run yourself into a good night punch. And really, we really expect to throw it to him. But if there's any doubt, we're going to throw it out there in the grass to the H. We're just as fine with that because just like what y'all were talking about, if that corner, he's going to be gone. But we really want to throw it to the W, nice and quick, turn out, stop. Let's take our 5 or 6 and go to the next play.
The thing I like is and it kind of reminds me for you guys that were on here when Brent Dearman came on a little while back was, out of 2-back stuff with 2 receivers, instead of running fade out to the field, he ran out to the field with the idea being that if that corner is the flat player, he's got to respect the out route. He can't let it out leverage him, and it helps open up that inside out route. Same deal. If they're playing quarters here in the Viper, whether he's, apex in those 2 or wherever you want to put him now, he can't be right. And if they want to play mini, if they're going to come down and meg him, well, you're clearing him out, and that means he's the flat player again. So once again, you can't be right. Now, obviously, if you want to get into some type of a man-free situation or spin a safety, looks a little bit different. But that's a different conversation too.
And the good thing about it, Pete, with just running those 2 routes right there, if they're bringing backside pressure, they're going to spin the wheel down and the freeze in the middle. You're fine.
Yep.
If the free comes, if they're bringing the Viper, if they're willing to bring him from 15 yards away and run the free safety down over the H.
Yep.
We're still fine.
But there's still quite the run lane there. I mean,
right,
and you've got plenty of space to throw the ball too.
Right. And guys, we always want to run the ball. We run quick browses. Just so we want to hand this off and let our guy, our 4.8 running back, go do his thing. Y'all laugh. I can show you him.
Listen, it's like Mirabel said the other night. Their slowest running back was his favorite.
Yeah.
He had time to see everything before he hit it. There's a little bit of truth to that. So, Lord knows the 2 of the best I've ever had have not exactly been fast. They've both been hella productive. So, anybody else have a way they like to attack this particular front? I mean, they want you to attack them in the run game, right? That's the whole premise and MO, and that's why I drew it up against 3-by-1 because I think it's smarter than 2-by-2 because you can try to pull this guy. Like for me, maybe you bunch these guys and you don't put them crazy wide, but you put them wide enough that so now if he presses the point man, can you expand him? If they don't, you've got 2 for 2 to throw your keys. right? And if they expand him now, at least from a run game perspective, you create a little bit more of a box advantage. I mean, we can do, I feel like we can combo there. We can combo there. We can arc there, and we can read that end. We're hat for hat with a very easy RPO. So, I feel like and especially in high school, I mean, guys, the game's played on the hash. And unless you're in Texas, we're playing on these freaking wide ass hashes in high school. I feel like if their front is a tight front, I just feel like 3x1's the way to attack. That and ground to tight end, but I wanted to kind of talk to MP at night. Anybody else?
We're similar with run game, like you just did. Another variation we would do would be stack the W behind the H. You can see where he is. So it'd be like a 3x1 stack. Well, the W would be behind.
Would be behind the H for you, yeah. And
so that back was already in a bind by a lineman.
Yep. That's we do. We do the same kind of thing. Get the H is my dude, so I stack him. But we do the same thing, and we'll throw key 3, right? Mm-hmm. We consider him 3. We'll throw the lock or Y screen, basically Y stick off of it. Yeah. We'll also work quick game type stuff off of it, make it all look the same. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I agree with you, Coach. Yeah. If and when teams spend a ton of time, especially if they're a man-free team, and I'm a believer in this, right? Teams spend a ton of time working switches between this guy and this guy. And if you put these two dudes close together, there is a base check in their system for them to work that switch. Whether they're going to press the point man and he's going to take the back guy, or they're going to play from depth and they're truly going to switch it. I don't think teams spend a ton of time, whether they're man-free or zone. This dude, they don't work switch the same way these two dudes work switch. So I'm a big fan of stacking 2 and 3 to the field, to the boundary, doesn't matter. 11P, 10P, 20, it doesn't matter. If I can stack 2 and 3, I'm a big fan of it for the same reason, Rhett. Mm-hmm. Make this dude and this dude make a decision right now with how they're going to align. And honestly, we do the same type stuff with our compressed sets. We like to bunch everybody down in there. We'll bring that W here, put the H here, and the Z. And again, where are you going to put him? Okay, you're going to put him head up? Great. We've got leverage. Let's get him to the flat. Your answer now is I'm going to bring the corner down and I'm going to cloud it. Great. There's our corner. We're good. We're going to throw a snag, So I'm with you on that one, boss. Anybody else, anything against this one? Got one?
Pete, the reason people get in tight front against us is we're so good at inside zone.
Yes, you are.
We can't get that 4-eye with our right tackle going zone left.
Yeah.
So we've had to figure out how to do it. I showed last time I was on here doing something. Some bastardized run game. But if I put this guy here, so at 4 strong, then I'm thinking inside zone left. This guy's probably got that gap. He's probably got that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a stunt. So what we've done is we say, all right, wash him down, pull for this guy, speed option, and the trick is now I'm pitching off of him. Trick is this guy goes, blocks that, and he just runs.
Yep.
These guys just run. He picks up the safety if and when we pitch it. You just cut these guys off.
So I saw Dom, I know, said we run speed option at the guy. It is. It's another.
Tap that tailback so it influences this guy.
Yes. Like I know Dan Mullen has been doing that for a while, and Joe Moorhead does it. Well, they'll tap it to show the inside zone. So let me ask you this, Coach, because I've gone back and forth, and this is for anybody in the room. How do you what are you telling the quarterback on speed option? I know Mullen for a long time when he was with Urban, and then Urban still at Ohio State. They worked when they ran speed option. They worked flat with the quarterback, and I don't know why that screwed up. My mouse is being funny. They worked flat with the quarterback instead of attacking the line of scrimmage. Their thought process was if you work flat, you almost force him to take the quarterback, which forces the pitch, which is ultimately what you want.
which has always intrigued me. So I'm curious to maybe how some of you guys.
You want any of this stuff in here now?
Are you gonna, like Stevie, when you run it, are you gonna jab him, get out, and is he attacking right now?
Yeah, so we're pinning the 4.
Yep.
And we're blocking the backer. I mean, he's pitching off alley. If
Yep.
that's the Viper or the safety. He's pitching off first color outside of the box.
Yep.
I mean, unless you're counting that backer outside the box, but he knows I got to pull for that guy. So
Right.
he's going to catch the ball, jab it, and run like it's quarterback sweep. And if somebody shows up, then it's – even if that jackass is all the way on the sideline, I can just throw it.
Yeah.
So if you're reading the 4-eye, I think you have to go flat.
Yes. I agree. I think if you're trying to read him, you send that quarterback flat as you could be, cut everybody else off. You know, I'm with you on that. Anybody else? Anybody work flat on speed option? Or am I the only guy that ever listened to Mullen talk about it and thought it was interesting? Because I very well might be.
When does your quarterback turn downhill? Is he just running flat until?
Well, I did it one season, and speed option was not a big call for us. But we used it. I can't even remember what year it was now. You know, we'd be offset here. So literally, we told him, you attack flat right now, okay? And we told him if nothing has shown up, I don't remember if we said third step or fifth step. It was go right now, get what you can, get in the dirt, right? Anything shows up, we'll pitch it immediately. And we were usually running it against teams that were giving us either a wide 5 or teams that were giving us a Viper on the line of scrimmage. So flat, you know, it's hard for this guy to go get him. He's going to, you know, so we basically, it almost became an extended toss sweep for us is what essentially happened. And I know when I listened to Mullen talk about it, I don't recall what year it was. It would have been 08 or 09 probably, maybe right when he got to Mississippi State. You know, he said that the only quarterback they had that they actually wanted to keep it was Tebow. But even then, they kept him flat. You know, Alex Smith and all those guys at Utah and when they were at Bowling Green, that was why they did it. It was get the ball out of their hand and get it into the quarterback's hand. And they felt going flat almost guaranteed that. That's a good question, Wes, and I don't remember his coaching point, honestly.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's see.
Hold on, Coach.
Yo.
I'm also a heavy zone team, and one of the answers that we had with this was we would take our guards and take both guards blocked out.
Yep, and fold it.
Wrap our tackle. Yeah, we fold both sides, and then read that backer.
That's a bitch of a play, Coach.
Listen, it is a great play. And I'll be honest, one of the more frustrating things for me every year is when we have to give our guys a look and our offense runs it well, and I get excited and want to put it in. You know, because now a lot of that, Coach, I mean, how some guys I talk to say the center's got to be a stud, right? You don't care where he takes the nose. He's just got to take him. And some guys I talk to say they don't care. All he's got to do is be a freaking fly. Just be on him.
Last year, my center was like 5'9", maybe 205, and that's still what we did. I just let the back cut off him, and then we read that backer that you got a pointer on now.
I think I know a lot of guys that will ground the tight end, knowing they're going to get this, but guaranteeing almost that 4-eye on the backside and a 5 here. And they'll do it on the weak side, knowing they can try to influence the nose because now they can be here. Right. They can, you know what I'm saying? Like they feel like they can predict it when they ground that tight end. But out of 10P especially, man, it can be, especially if you're going to get this type of look, it can be such a – because let these dudes fold in from the outside. It's going to be a 4-yard gain. And when I'm calling a run play, I'm calling a 4-yard play. Anything else is a bonus. Right after that, it's dessert because you can still RPO it. I mean, I can still work stick off of that, and this dude's gonna fit when he sees the pull, and I've still got my RPO.
And my quarterback was a runner, so it's even more of a threat.
No doubt.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
Coach, can I show you a clip of that?
Yeah, Coach. Let me hold up. Let me. I'm gonna stop share real quick. See if it'll let you share it, or I need to make you a co-host. I can't remember what my settings are right now.
All right, I just clicked share.
Perfect.
And Owens, I'm like you. My quarterback last year was a runner as well. And anytime we see a 3-4, whether it's tight or not, we call it drum. We're gonna fold those tackles right here. And usually, we'll either treat it and let the back be a lead blocker. He's an extra guy, or we'll motion him out just like we did here. And I mean, we got creases for days. And this
Yeah,
kid
you do.
is ridiculous. So, I mean, he's fastest kid in Douglasville. So, but that's something. If we see a 3-4, that's the first play we run, and our kids love it as well. And my tackles were my best pullers anyway. So it helped.
So where are his eyes pre-snap? Is the quarterback? Is he looking to see if that mic pushes out with emotion, or is he just knowing I got the ball?
In that instance, yeah, he could have thrown it. It was an RPO.
Yeah.
But any other time, whether we're running with the running back or if we're just gonna let the quarterback keep it, they're reading the nose. So wherever the nose goes, the center is gonna take him. You run opposite of him.
Yeah, I that's one of those plays that it's like the great white buffalo for me, man. I freaking love it every time I watch somebody else run it. I don't know if I've never given enough time or never had the balls to do it, but it's just never worked for me. So, but it's when you hit it, man, it's beautiful. I'll say this: our defensive staff does a phenomenal job. We've got some really damn good coaches on our defensive staff, and so if we're reading 4-eye right here, and they feel him come out and they get this, our dudes do a fantastic job of fighting over the face and over the top of it, knowing that they're going to get that laid outside fitter. And so that's one thing, hell, I guess if we can run it against our guys where those ends are going to be really well coached. And last year in particular, we had 2 studs at that spot. If we could run against them, in theory, we should be able to run it against other people.
We cut them. If those 4 eyes are squeezing like that, we'll cut them.
Cut them right now.
Mm-hmm.
You never have an issue with the guard's legs being in the hole?
No, I don't either.
No, we don't.
There you go. That's good. That's good. That's good to know. I like playing dirty. Big fan of it. So 3 deep tight, right, was kind of the next one. And I don't know how many of you guys are seeing this stuff. I mean, Iowa State's obviously doing it, and I feel like if you've ever watched Chalk Wars that Coach Arafat's doing out of Texas, he's doing a phenomenal job, guys. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to participate in. But I felt like every time I watch it, every defense coordinator is trying to be in this and be exotic the whole time. But when you're getting 3 safeties in particular, let's just focus on long down and distance situations. What's your mentality? And I've got it drawn up like the corners are kind of clouded and cover 2, but a lot of times, those dudes, are either pressed or they're playing more of a quarters technique pre-snap. What's your mentality if you're seeing this type of 3rd and long, 2nd and long? What's your mentality when you're getting this type of look, knowing that there's probably a pressure, but they've built that shell across the top? Anybody have some experience? Screen, yeah, it's a good one.
We see it every day in practice, Pete, and we just treat it just like cover 3.
So that's, Nick, and that's because when I got to, and Stevie, I'm sure I mean, our defense coordinator, when he was at his last stop before he came to us, he would line up, dude, and it was 5 across, man. And he was an odd stack, and he'd back those corners up. And he would get into 2, he would get into 3, he would get into 4, he would get into, and he would just rotate and move guys and different guys coming and different guys. And it became hard to tell the quarterback. And the easiest thing for us was, like you said, Nick, we would either treat it like cover 3, right? Or we would literally try to do anything that we could cut the field in half. right? Because so much of what they're going to do is going to be about moving a safety and getting here, or it's going to be some type of cover 2 or quarters with this robber sitting in the hole, and they're going to, you know, pressure underneath. So we did as much as we could that allowed us to cut the field in half, because I like full field progressions, and I believe you can teach them to high school kids if you're smart about how you structure them and protect them. But that was what I found in practice, was when I could just cut it in half for my quarterback, it gave us the best opportunity for success. So, Nick, what's some of the things you like to do? You say you like to treat as cover 3.
So we did a thing called we called it ticks last year, where we would walk and widen those hole players out and really try and get them between the space right there if that corner bails, and then just run an out route with them. So we're going to sit right there. We're just going to sit. We're going to turn back inside, so not like a comeback, and we're just going to stand on the tick marks right there on the sideline. Then we're going to run an out route with the W. So he's just standing on the tick marks and make that safety fly over. You know, he's got to really haul butt to get over there. But by the time he's that corner's committed one way or the other, ball's already out of his hands for that safety to go make a play over the top of the ticks. And we just called it ticks because he was going to the tick marks.
So if it's 2 or they're playing some type of cut, right, where he's going to bail, and you're expecting him to trigger, is he going to stay vertical, or is he going to go ahead and settle?
He's going to settle.
And you're going to try to drive the whole shot before the safety can get there.
Correct. And he's not really moving. Like, as soon as he feels that corner collapse, he's just settling.
I know you had talked about that wow, and I took a freaking half a page of notes on it.
Yeah.
In one of the
really good to us, because I mean, so many times you try and throw that whole shot, and you know he's hauling butt down the sideline, and that corner's pressing him outside, and you just it's just a tight window to throw it.
And if they're going to play quarters and he's going to bail, you drive this right now, make him make the tackle in space.
Exactly, and I'm always good with getting 5 yards.
Amen. Yeah, that's one thing too. Like I drew it up out of 2x2. I think 2x2 is a better formation versus this particular look defensively, or empty. 3x1. So many 3x1 concepts I feel like are built off where's the weak safety, right? So if we've got the H over here and it's 3x1, well, they can hide that now. So if you tell your quarterback, okay, you got to work to the field, if you don't have the right thing built in and suddenly they're spinning or they're doing something, I think it can create issues. So I feel like in 2x2, and I'm not a fan of mirrored concepts, but I actually think that this is a look where mirrored concepts are good. So if you're taking what Nick's talking about and you're working that walk outside and widen, right, and you're just working what's essentially a fade out, but you're giving your receiver a tool for that window, that cover 2 window. It's easy now to tell the quarterback where's your leverage, because if this guy's showing early to trigger, well, put your eyes that way.
Yep. And another thing we like to do is we'll put the back and sidecar weak.
Yep.
Right. So keep your fade out concept on the left side. Put the back fade out weak. We're going to run, then they're going to run stick right there instead of fade out. No, I'm sorry, the other side. We want the back cross and face.
I like it. I got you.
Yep.
So you've been watching LSU film.
I have.
Me too.
Yep,
and then what will you do on this backside? Just whatever.
The wow, the fade out.
Work the wow.
Yep. Exactly. You got a nice little 2 high, 1 high side.
Guys, I'm referencing LSU, and if you've watched them, obviously, first of all, Joe Brady, right, and a bunch of 5-star athletes, and we don't all have those, but they love to release, and it's become a more popular thing. They love to release 5, and they release the tailback from the opposite side. Ohio State does it a ton. Zone man, they don't care. Because, right now they're not accounting for the tailback, right? And when he comes across and he releases into the flat, the timing is a little bit different than traditional stick if the tailback's here.
Exactly.
For sure. But you're also, their eyes aren't there. You've affected their reads. I know one of the things that we did last year, because we do push our tailback out a lot in motion. I know Trenton, we've talked a lot about this, is if our back is going to motion out to the right, we start him opposite. Because, again, if I'm a defensive player and I'm building my count pre-snap, I'm thinking I got to account for the back. And now he pushes the other way, and these dudes are having to communicate real quickly because all of a sudden they went from a 2-man side to a 3-man side. And depending on how you structure your coverage, it could be a non-factor. But for a lot of guys, I feel like, especially guys that play combo coverages, you're really forcing checks, and you're potentially now pulling a box player that thought he was a curl player and asking him to do something different in a hurry. So I'm a big fan of bringing that back across in any type of 5-man. So that's good stuff, Nick.
Yep, thanks.
What else? Anybody else? I do think RPO, and I know we talked about 3rd and long, but even all said, right, again, we're a mid-zone team. I can get hat for hat right here, even on a 3rd down scenario, if I can cut him off at all, okay, and right here, instead of working stick, what we would probably do is work like a levels or a fin concept, or work a 2-man snag. It's a very simple read for the quarterback. Let him be influenced. I feel like this right here, if they're spinning, you put him in a bind. Quarterback may never see it. But if you're pushing him vertical and they spin, if he's a skiff player, right, and he's collisioning that same curl flat, he's going to collision and give you time to come off here. And if he frickin' bypasses it for some reason, you've got a chance to hit that window before the other safety rotates over. So I do think even on 3rd and long, if I were going to try to RPO it, that would probably play a factor in how I did that.
Pete, do you take into consideration the middle safety, what he is, whenever you're setting your pass protections? Because when our defense does this, it's always the free safety.
Yeah.
And we play 5 low and we play 5 high. That's our base coverage, and both suck when you're trying to, they're great against the other teams. They suck when I got to call plays.
Right.
But, we don't even consider him as part of the pass protection. And I think the great part about it is you can get the back out because the most they can bring in a hurry is 5, and you can slide that way, and it's easy for your quarterback. Just like you're talking about, I love taking the back across, because now if that guy's coming, he's got to peel. There's a ton of shit. I love what you were just saying.
I agree with you. And Trenton just said in the chat, and it goes in line, because they run, and Trenton, his audio's off, but he's at Lexington Catholic in Kentucky, is a really successful program. They do a ton of empty, right? And so they see a lot of this, he said, versus 3x2. And you've reduced the box count now, and they just trust their protection and their reads, and they run their full field stuff. So whether they want to run shallow or Y-cross or mesh or whatever, you build in your hots in anything that you're going to do. So, if you wanted to work shallow, and I mean, if I were, however you do it as an empty team, if you want to dig him, shallow him, and, for me, I would out post and out probably, but you build in answers. If he's hot right now, find your shallow. If he's hot right now, you're probably off here. You might have a chance to throw the out. So I do think that's another, if you're getting this look, I do think empty is smart. Because the other thing I think about empty in this front, because that's what we would try to do some to our defense, was we felt like it forced – these guys had a harder time holding their hand when it was empty. Right now, he's got to – am I going to widen out? If I do, I'm not a factor in the pressure game anymore. Right? And if he's not going to widen out, then this guy, somebody's got to come down and control the flat, So I do think if the defense is going to live in that, especially in early downs, I'm with Trenton and I'm with US. I like, trying to attack them early with that stuff. And Trenton just said we can trust our drop back because we feel like we can protect all night long and then freeze. Amen, right? Try to get them to tip their hand with your freeze tags. And then, guys, I will say it. I will always say it. If you're going to be an empty team and it's something that you're going to give a lot of time to, motion, period, right? If you're going to line up in 3x2 here, Whether you're going to motion the H across into quads or you're going to flip the strength, do it. I don't care if you're a 3 safety defense or a 1 high defense, man. It sucks. It sucks a lot. And I can tell you that teams that did that against me when I was coordinating defenses were the ones that kept me up at night a lot. But that's another thing, right? Because if I'm here, and their plan is, okay, we're going to spin to the passing strength, and now I flip that strength, and I'm forcing them to spin here. I just asked a lot of high school kids to communicate, man, and that can be a freaking train wreck, and we all know it. 3x2 trips to the boundary is the other thing he just said. I will always be a fan of putting the passing strength into the boundary too. So that's good stuff. So I got this question tonight was teams that kick the coverage, right? That'll cloud the coverage with the corner to 3x1, especially, we saw it to 2x2 last year from one of the best teams on our schedule. And I know when I was a coordinator, this was one of my favorite coverages to run when I had the right kids at corner. We like to say make corners tackle, but every now and again, this dude's a bad SOB that wants to tackle. And I do think this is one of my favorite versions of cover 3 when you've got the right kid here, is let him kick it inside late, play over the top of it, and whether you're going to meg the backside or true zone it and play cover 3. Do you guys have anything in particular do you see that coverage? And do you have anything in particular that you like to attack it? Because I thought about what my answer was after somebody asked me to discuss it.
Pete, this is the exact coverage that we knew we would get from a Keatron on third down, third down. So we go over there in the semis, and it's first third down. It's like 3rd and 9 because they stuff our shit. But we know this is the case, so we had this play called, and it ended up working because I swapped the formation, and that was Josh Downs, and he's really good.
Yep.
Short that guy, and he stems out to 5. He gets behind him, screws with that Viper. Eye candy on that guy, like takes him with him. If he wants to jump over you, run it across, doesn't matter. Now I'm matched up on this safety that's thinking he's clouding. We're running a post. He's best release, dig for in case it gets guarded. We hit this thing for a 50-yard gain, and it mattered. But
man,
that's exactly what I thought when this guy ran like a speed out for protection.
Yeah. Well, you put that weak safety in one hell of a bind.
Yep. Sure did.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. And that's like Trenton said, push the back to the trips and run 4 verts. But you're accomplishing the same thing. I mean, the whole purpose of running 4 verts against cover 3, and we all know it, is to put that middle of the field safety in a bind. But I love it off of that switch. Let him attack here, push now, boom. That's good stuff, Coach. I love that. Anybody else?
Coach Jackson, did they stack? I mean, how far did they end up being? A couple, 3 yards apart?
I can pull it up for you there, Coach, if you give me a second.
Do you mind? I don't want to hold everybody else up, but
I want to see it too.
I don't remember if we motioned or not, but I think we did later in the game. This one I'm about to pull up was the third of the game. If I can get there.
And the kid he had running that route was a special kid. I will tell you that right now. He's going to Georgia Tech, and he'll be on the field next year.
No, he's in North Carolina.
Or in North Carolina. That's right. He's in North Carolina.
He really is.
Phil Longo is going to have him on the field next year. Let's put it like that.
Let's see how I do this. Share screen.
North Carolina's having some pretty good success in recruiting since brother.
And Mac is on fire.
You guys got that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, hold tight. There you go. Let me go back a little bit. So, well, it looks like I drew it up backwards because that's actually the kid we're talking about. So maybe the formation was a little jacked up, but they played it all the way over.
Yeah, they did.
I thought he would be a little more in the formation, but they played it all the way over because every single week we didn't know what they were going to do to that guy. Some people said that they could guard him. Some people said 3 people need to guard him. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But this guy ends up running across. He doesn't get messed up with this guy. So he ends up over here. I mean, I thought that was going to take him. It ends up taking him anyway. So now it's just read that guy for what I showed in the diagram was the stem out.
Yep.
It looks like I called it wrong because that's not right. He's in the wrong place if that's the formation. But anyway.
Long as it works, Coach.
It ended up working. You see what you got there out of that safety with the cross. I mean, it's just 4 verticals. What I drew on the diagram was something better than that, but I don't know why it didn't end up like that. That's how we practiced it, was the diagram.
It's the same concept though, right? It's all about isolating that one guy, which is, and that's the thing. I know, Trip Allen was on here a couple nights ago or a couple weeks ago, and we joked that he opened the game and threw 4 verts on me with tight end attached right there. He got in Trey because he said it was a rundown and it was the only time he knew I'd be in cover 3. So he attached him and he ran 4 verts. And I mean, that's, he had my number, got an explosive play to start the game. The same deal, and that was our thing too when we kicked and we ran that. The space that always gave me the most fits was it was so hard to teach this guy. If you threatened him now, whether it was with bubble here or back action or whatever, the hardest thing was to teach him to maintain depth. It's easy to teach a safety to be patient coming down because he's square. He sees everything. It's harder to teach this guy to maintain depth, in my opinion. I was always worried about teams that were going to be able to attack this.
You used to do that cut thing with that guy against me when I was at Cherokee. And what were you trying to stop?
Well, to be completely and totally honest with you, this kid looked like he belonged in a boy band, but he played like he belonged in a street fight. And that's why we did it, because I needed him at corner. His junior year, he played every game at corner. His senior year, he went back and forth from corner to safety based on what week we played. And when he was at safety, our answer that week was spin the safety. And when he was at corner, our answer was spin the corner. And it was Jimmy's and Joe's. It was 100%. But the thing that I loved about it was, okay, if you're 2x2 and you wanted to jet motion me or even just bring him across, this kid is in such great position to play that thing from inside out right now. And our goal is to spill things to it anyway. So he could attack it so fast, and there's no great player in leverage to block him. It is a hard angle for him because we felt like we could come attack it right now. He's not going to be able to dig him out, right? And so if I'm bringing this safety down, you have a chance to build more leverage on him, where if I'm attacking with the corner, you don't. And from a coverage concept standpoint, right, if you think about traditional quick game, where when we're playing air raid teams, right, and we're playing Alpharetta and some of those guys at the time, and Nick, you were at Alpharetta, and, if you and Jake wanted to run Y stick, well, it played into my hands because I could tell him you don't have to be in a hurry. Boom. The out route's going to feed to him, and that's really the ball we wanted to force anyway, and we're over the top of the vertical route. And if you want to throw that and you feel like you can make a living on it, particularly from the opposite hash, I'm not concerned, because it's not going to be a high percentage throw.
That's why you kicked our ass for so many years.
Oh, hang on, Nick. Austin King threw that thing to beat us in the playoffs.
Austin could sling it a little bit. But the one I worried about the most, in all honesty, was Snag. Because, again, if this outside receiver was well coached, he's going to attack that bubble. He's going to. So this area worried me the most because it was a long way for him to go. That's what gave me the most problems when I was running that coverage, other than 4 verts, right? Because, again, it's hard to get this guy to play with depth. And then the other one that's hard, but I always had the advantage of being pretty freaking good on D-line, were teams that want to flood with number 3, kind of like Wes was showing earlier, right? Because now he's got to take this bubble. He's out over the top of 1. He's in bad position, and you're asking him to get a long way when you're working sprint out now, because our deal was we were going to flush with the mic, right? So those were the 2 things that gave me the most problems from that
that structure. Now, I'll say this, and you know, sitting here thinking about it, Smitty, well, yeah, Carl Lawson, Stevie, you said it, Nick, yeah. So Stevie, Nick, Smitty, there's at least 3 of you in the room that faced me when I was playing defense. We were a little bit atypical because we were going to give you a 5-man box, try to encourage you to run the football, and we were telling these dudes, be patient as hell on everything, and once you're confident, react with bad intentions, because our alignment allowed us to do so.
It worked.
Coach, it worked when we had these guys. That's, you know,
Which was every year I played you.
Well, we were occasionally fortunate, but that was my thing, right? So 3 on the flood, which I'm convinced is the best way to run flood these days, because again, it influences him right now. He's out of the picture. And then, like I said, snag, because he will lose him. Spacing doesn't quite have the same effect, but it can, because you now can control this guy better. Same deal, like the way that I run curl now with him vertical, him there, you'll get the same effect. But, you know, I feel like anything in this window is going to give you your advantage when teams cloud like that.
Pete, we take number 2, the defensive formation you were showing earlier, where you had the Viper outside of number 2 and man in number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Against these 2 coverages, we're going to take number 2 and run him at your flat defender and then pivot him back under, because whenever he pivots, that dude stops.
Yep, he freezes.
And if he keeps running, it cleans up the out throw even more to number 3, because number 1's running off. He ain't fucking getting the ball.
Right.
If he clamps the pivot, but we end up throwing it to the pivot quite a bit, because the corner or the Viper stops, the other guy's taking 3, and there's a big old gaping gash out there by the hash. You know, and but no, I love throwing flood into that.
It is. It's a good one to throw flood into. And you know, the other thing we always had to work a ton on were teams that wanted to that wanted to push pivot there with a wheel, and then we're going to threaten us, you know, whether it was a corner or an out, right? And just make it a high-low basically on him. Because what we would always talk about was, you know, if you were a flat defender for us and anything cleared your flat, you had to run with it, right? So now we're here, even though we've still got help over the top, you just create that big window where you're asking him to cover a lot of ground. And for us, it typically meant that you were going to be, you know, you were going to be collision first before you start expanding. So I thought that was a good damn way to handle it. I went back today. We'll talk about it in the group chat, and somebody, when they posed this question, I went back today and pulled up the damn kid's highlight video, because this freaking kid would line up right here, and air raid teams would try to throw key 3 on us with number 3 off the ball. And I swear half his highlight video was this poor H trying to block him and the freaking number 3 just getting sawed in half. And it was so damn fun to watch. There's also, Nick, a game against Alpharetta in 2x2 where I swear y'all ran fade out and it's cover 2 and the same kid sinks off. And I legit thought he killed the receiver and was like, thought that, oh crap, that kid's dead. And then he ended up not being, thank God. But I legit for 10 seconds was like, oh shit, he's dead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember that one too.
It was
Austin's first start.
It was Austin's first start. You threw the out there sideline, and there's a picture of our kid standing over the receiver, and I'm on the sideline, and the look on my face is like it's you know, I'm like, want to see a dead body? I mean, it was, you know, it was legit.
Something funny?
Give it to me.
I think I'm marrying that kid's sister.
Oh, well, you know what? I hope her brother recovered. So I hope he recovered. So last one for the night, fellas, because, man, I've had a great time tonight, but we've run longer, I think, than we have before. So the next one I would just want to ask you guys about was double A gap, whether they're crossing them or they're bringing them, but teams that want to play man free or really spin down and play man to man.
and go double A gap on you. Do you have an answer? You know, I've always struggled protection wise. We're a half man, half slide team, and it's such a tough angle for him if you're bringing him from depth. So we have, in my career, we've done a couple different things. We have checked to a full slide, put him on the end, which I'm not a huge fan of. And the other thing I've done is literally just pre-snap, walk that dude up, put him freaking in a gap 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, and tell him whatever comes through that gap is yours, but we're trying to build you leverage in a better angle right there. Anybody else have an answer for maybe whether it's cross or straight up double A, something you like to do from a 10-piece structure?
Yeah, throw the ball right now. He ain't gonna block no way.
Well, that's now you're talking.
That's what Pete, just slide everybody left and put the running back in the right flat.
We used to, you know,
Re-release.
We've played Alatuna, who's an odd stack team, but they've carried this pressure in the past. And what they do is they stand up this guy, and if you free release, he's going to peel to him. And they play with dudes, you know, and so they've still been able to get 5 in the pressure, but they've peeled to the back because that was our answer year one was, okay, we'll slide. Let's free release the back. And now they peel to him, and it's, you know, it's still not a great situation. Now, if you like it on the outside, at least you've got numbers and protection now.
So, Pete, if you know that guy's peeling, it's a 5-man protection versus 5-man blitz. If you teach the right tackle and the right guard.
Yep.
So we're sliding to the left B. All right, the weak backer in the 10 there. And the right guard and the right tackle, they do like a hybrid vertical set, and they got to sift with eyes on that backer.
Yep.
If he comes, the quarterback's got to know that I got to throw it to the tailback because if the end comes. But if he's peeling, now the right tackle sets back down on the tackle, the 4 or the 3 there. It's an empty protection to a 6-man box.
It's a good way to handle it, especially if you teach vertical sets. It makes complete sense to me.
This is the exception. It's an empty protection where these 2 guys sit to the tackle with their eyes on the backer, and if he comes, then it becomes a combination. If he doesn't come, then they can play out on the tackle in the end.
Makes sense to me.
It sucks, but it's the only answer.
Well, if you got the right guy right here in particular, right, it helps. And that's the other thing too. I'm a big believer, right, and I don't always do a great job of it, so I'm not going to tell you I do. But there's a reason we look at personnel. If we know that this kid is the lesser athlete or this kid is my better athlete, then just make sure every time you're doing it this way. You know, it doesn't matter if you're to the field, to the boundary, build the scheme where let the lesser athlete be in coverage, put your better athlete now in that two-way go. I mean, I know, you know, there were years at Milton where in an odd front, we would take our guards and we'd molly them where they'd set, and if this guy didn't come right now, they'd fan out to the Viper. You know, and there's ways to attack that as a defense. But if you're good at it and you work it, you can do it. I'm with you on that, Coach. It's not at all a bad way to answer it.
Why not just have Pete, sorry to interrupt. Why not just have him run an angle route and replace where the backers were, instead of having him run to the flat where the end can just go chase him down? That's a better athlete in the backfield than there on the line.
Yeah, that's a good point, Coach. And that's one that I've probably, and you know, do you feel like that takes more time? Which, I mean, again, you've got 5 to protect 5, so in theory you're protected, and you are isolating. I mean, that's not something I've thought about, but it makes complete sense. And I'll say this: for whatever reason, I have not done a good job of use push motion. You know, which is something we do right now. Is he going to run with his ass pre-snap? You know. And now you talk about really isolating the guy, because can that dude now run with the wheel route? You know,
the other thing is, go ahead.
So Pete, you're actually right on what I was about to say. Is you push motion your T out that way, run a shallow with your W, and then run jailbreak screen to the left, and you're basically putting them in a huge bind. Now I know screens are always good against against blitz, but if you know they're going to come, we like to bring that W on the shallow, make sure he's getting back under across the line of scrimmage, and he becomes the jailbreak tunnel screen runner, going back to the outside, or the slow screen runner. I'm sorry.
Which I like that. I mean, I guess, you're right. Like, here's the other thing that does. It tells your tackle right now what this kid's doing.
Yep. Right?
Because if he doesn't leave with him right now, your tackle knows, give a damn call, and I know that now I'm working here.
Yes.
You kind of take that thinking out of it. So I like that, fellas.
You'll get them in a situation where they make a check on that and they'll roll, and now you've got one-on-one backside.
Yes.
You're still 5-man for 6 though. That doesn't answer the blitz issue.
It doesn't, because that's the thing. That's what we would probably get against. If I were to push him, what would end up happening for Altoona? They would bring him. He would try to come down on number 3, right? Which at this point, I'm just trying to work him. That's what they would do. I feel confident of that. One of the things, and again, it comes back to what your 3rd and long is. We would do is we love to put it into the boundary, but you use our jet sweep motion now in wheel 3, and let these guys work something inside to try to set the screen. How do they respond to that? Technically now you can still protect with 6 if you trust your H to chip an end, or you get him out in the swing and let him be your hot route right now. That's just not necessarily traditional, because when we see this, it's 2nd and forever, 3rd and long, type deal where, again, screen's a good call. But it's typically not a situation where we're working off of our jet play action stuff.
Pete, question for you then.
Yes, sir.
If you want to do that jet motion stuff, why don't you have your W go across to the left hash, go kind of get your 3 verts aspect going here. Z outside release. No, outside release. On the numbers. You have the T lead for the H and have them right up the hash.
Yep.
And then you have the H for the dump off bubble.
Yep. That's it. We've one of the better teams on our schedule's had a ton of success with that play over the years. It's a good one. Anybody else do that and try to pipe that guy, divide the safeties and pipe him right there?
All the time versus that cover.
Yeah.
It's still, you got to protect. If you're getting a blitz, it's not a call I'm making.
Yeah. That's been my issue is do I have time to get it off? If I can get this guy to peel, I feel like I've got a chance. But, that's – and I'll say this. One of our big answers, and I did a lot of 10P tonight for a reason. I don't know if we're going to have a damn tight end on our roster last year or next year. We hope we do. But so much of what we've done the past 3 years has been playing 11P. So what we would be likely to do in this situation is we'll still push him out, but now we're going to slide the line and we're going to leave him in protection now, and try to create our rub over here, which is great. It's fine. We're sound. We can protect 6. And if they bring 7, we just have to recognize it and get the ball out of our hands. But that doesn't help me if I can't find a tight end on my roster next year.
So what we did, we have pretty good tight ends normally, except our tight end towards ACL in the spring last year. So we actually took our 7th best offensive lineman
and put him there
and made him the tight end.
Yeah.
That way we still had a guy to rotate with the regular 5. But, did we get the vertical stretch? No. But
right. But
you can catch a ball at 6 yards, you can catch an arrow.
Well, and that's the only thing, right? As long as you know what you're getting and what you're not, right? You can build around it.
One thing that, I'm a big tackle trap guy here. So if you're going to go H jet motion here, and we go quarterback dart with it, you're accounting for everything, right? Your left guard and I'm going, yeah.
Would you trap him?
I would fan left guard, left tackle to nose end.
Okay.
And insert weak A.
Okay. So you go there, insert for him, which he's coming. He's on the line.
He's there right now.
You're going to end up trapping him.
Anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And then reading him and just bash it.
And it's still a half-man, half-slide with tail on end.
Right.
And you can RPO it. You can do whatever the hell you want with it.
Yeah, you could also just read him and lead out for the extra
Exactly.
fitter.
There's a
You know,
that tackle trap to me. I think that takes care of that double A force.
yeah,
Whatever you want to call it.
I will openly admit my flaws pretty often, at least when I'm smart enough to recognize them. But I do think that I don't do enough, and I think a lot of us don't do enough. If you know that this is what the kind of crap they like to do in certain situations, take it out of their hands by using something they haven't worked, because they don't work this pressure against that.
Right.
They work it to get after your ass and pass rush. So why not paint the different picture? I'm with you on that. I know I was talking to some guys not long ago, and I think one of the best defensive game plans I've ever seen, or offensive game plans I've ever seen, for you Georgia guys, it would have been 2015 or 16, Roswell versus Colquitt in the state title game, because Roswell that year, if you were at 11P or 20P, you got a 4-man front. If you came out in 10P, they had a kid that was a stand-up, plays at North Carolina, they'd walk out, and they were an odd front, and they were playing match all over the field. Colquitt spent the whole game. They would start in 10P, motion a tight end into the backfield or a tailback into the backfield, and force them to fit the run from a front they weren't comfortable fitting it in. And same deal, all right? So I'm with you on that, Liam. It's kind of one of those things. Jack, you're listening. Write it down. Remind my ass. If this is their answer on third down, then give them something that answers their answer, and give them something they're not used to. So
right, you just got to get fancy with how you sauce it up.
Yeah, Xavier McKinney was X factor. There's no doubt. Yeah, he just got drafted in the first freaking round by the Giants, and he. How funny is it, Stevie? Tell me this: was he the guy in that secondary that you wanted to attack? Because that's who we tried to attack his junior and senior year, and he just got drafted in the first round.
Hell no, it wasn't, man. We ran a slow screen to the running back, like just a full slide, kick the end, spin around, slow screen. He caught it in the back.
Well, the kid was a freak. We wanted to attack. What's the freaking kid's name that's playing in Indiana? We wanted Marcelino. We wanted to attack Lino, but they would bring his ass down into the box. So it was, okay, am I going to take the Division I corner on the outside, who weren't the same talent X was, but they were pressed and they were physical as shit? Or am I going to at least take the 6'4" kid that looks awkward, but oh crap, he's the best athlete on the field? Turns out, not a great scenario.
Yeah, none of it worked.
So, guys, I appreciate it. We're pushing on 2 hours now, and it's kind of like last night, man. Feels like it's been 45 minutes, and we've been going for a long time. I did record this. I'll unless one of you sends me a text says please don't share it, I intend to post it on YouTube. But if you took notes and you don't think you got enough, shoot me a message, and once I get this thing, I'll send it to you regardless, because I definitely will keep it for myself. So appreciate you, fellas. Stay healthy. Stay blessed. Monday night, got a guest lined up. He's going to be good. So I'm looking forward to him. He's going to talk a couple different things, I think. So it should be good. So, fellas, appreciate you. Take care. And
thank you, Coach.
Yeah, maybe.
And thank you, your other coaches also for all that good stuff tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, Dan, I got you, bro. I see your message. I got you. So have a good one, fellas.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Pete.
Yep.